1, we've got a real treat for you. A classic 1978 Cadillac Coupe de Ville that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at $6,000, and it's ready for a new owner who appreciates the finer things in life. First off, let's talk about the specs. This caddy runs on gas and has an automatic transmission, making it a breeze to drive. The odometer shows 101,000 miles, which is pretty impressive for a car that's over 4 decades old. And get this, the odometer is rolled over, so you know this car has seen some action. Now let's dive into the seller's description. According to the ad, the interior is in excellent shape, which is always a huge plus for a classic car. The original interior has been well maintained, so you can enjoy that vintage vibe in comfort and style. However, it's important to note that the car does have a few issues. The seller mentions that it needs a rear window and there's a dent on the passenger door. While these aren't deal breakers, it's crucial to be upfront about any imperfections, and I appreciate the seller's honesty here. Despite the minor flaws, the seller states that the car runs well, which is a testament to the quality and durability of these old Cadillacs. With a little TLC, this Coupe de Ville could be a real head-turner at car shows and on the open road. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic American luxury car with plenty of character, this 1978 Cadillac Coupe de Ville might just be the one for you. Sure, it's not perfect, but that's part of the charm. And at $6,000, it's a steal compared to some other classic cars out there. 2. All right, folks, buckle up because we've got a real treat for you today. Straight from the pages of Craigslist, we've discovered a 1950 Oldsmobile 88 that's sure to get your engines revving. This ain't your typical classic car. It's got a history that'll make you want to hit the drag strip yourself. First off, let's talk about the price. At $12,000, this Olds is a steal for any serious collector or enthusiast. But what exactly do you get for that price? Well, let me tell you, this Oldsmobile 88 isn't just some dusty old relic. It's got a racing pedigree that dates back to the early 60s at the Vaca Valley Drags. The seller has done their best to keep the car true to its era, and it shows. Under the hood, you'll find the original 303 engine, paired with a hydrostick transmission. Now, if you're scratching your head wondering what that is, don't worry. The seller encourages you to Google it, and trust me, it's worth the search. The car's been given a fresh coat of Oldsmobile antique white paint in PPG single stage, which was done about 2 years ago. It's rolling on some serious rubber too. Towel City Chester slicks on 15x8 steels in the back and original 15x6 Ansons with 610 bias plies up front. The seller has also upgraded the brakes with a disc brake conversion on the front and a thorough going over of the rear drums. Inside, the car's been given a 12V conversion with all-new wiring from American Auto Wire, and the battery's been relocated to the trunk for better weight distribution. A Holly Blue label fuel pump with braided fuel lines keeps the engine fed and happy. Now, the seller does admit that there are a couple of issues with the car. Apparently, parts for the B&M hydrostick transmission are pretty hard to come by these days, but fear not. A company called Speed Gems makes conversion kits that'll let you run a modern 5-speed or automatic transmission instead. The seller also notes that the rear knee bone shocks are done for, but they had plans to install a ladder bar and coilover kit to remedy that. Overall, this 1950 Oldsmobile 88 is a true piece of hot rodding history. It's not in perfect condition, but that's part of the charm. This car has been driven hard and put away wet, as they say. If you're looking for a classic car with a real story to tell, this might just be the one for you. And at $12,000, it's a bargain compared to some of the other classic cars out there. So what do you think? Is this Olds 88 calling your name? 3. We've got a real gem for you. A 1973 Ford Mustang that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic pony car is priced at $15,000, and it's got a lot to offer for the discerning buyer. First off, let's talk about the specs. Under the hood, you'll find a 302 engine with 78,000 original miles. That's right, this Mustang has been around the block a few times, but it's still got plenty of life left in it. The engine is paired with a dual exhaust system and an automatic transmission that was rebuilt about 2 years ago, so you can expect smooth, reliable performance. Inside, the owner has made some nice updates to the sound system, including AUX, Bluetooth, and Sirius XM capabilities. So whether you're cruising down the highway or parked at a car show, you can enjoy your favorite tunes in style. Speaking of car shows, the seller mentions that this Mustang is mainly used for such events, so you know it's been well maintained and cherished. The exterior of the car is painted in a sleek black, and while there are a few small scratches and maybe a ding or two, there are no major dents to speak of. The power windows and power top are all in working order so you can enjoy the wind in your hair on those nice summer days. Now, the seller does mention a couple of minor issues. The AC is cool but needs a recharge, so that's something to keep in mind if you're planning on using this car as a daily driver. Additionally, while the car runs great overall, it's important to remember that it's almost 50 years old, so it may require a bit more TLC than a newer vehicle. Overall, though, this 1973 Ford Mustang seems like a solid choice for anyone in the market for a classic car with a bit of personality. The asking price of $15,000 might seem a bit steep at first glance, but when you consider the low mileage, rebuilt transmission, and updated features, it starts to look like a pretty fair deal. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done by a trusted mechanic before signing on the dotted line. But if everything checks out, this Mustang could be a real head-turner at your next car show or cruise night. 4. Have I got a treat for you today? Straight from the pages of Craigslist, we found an absolute gem, a 1970 Cadillac DeVille that's looking for a new home. And the best part? It can be yours for just $7,500. First off, let's talk about the condition of this beauty. According to the seller, it's in excellent shape, and I've got to say, the pictures definitely back that up. The green paint job is absolutely stunning, and the body looks clean and straight. The interior is also said to be very clean, which is impressive for a car that's over 50 years old. Now let's talk about the specs. Under the hood, you'll find a mighty 472 engine that's been rebuilt, so you know it's got plenty of power. The car also has new tires, which is always a plus. It's a rear-wheel drive vehicle with an automatic transmission, making it a breeze to drive. One thing to note is that the odometer has rolled over. So while it shows 85,170 miles, the actual mileage is likely higher. However, the seller mentions that this Cadillac has always been garaged, which is a great sign. It's been in the same family since 1969, when the seller's father bought it new. That's a lot of history. The seller also mentions that they transferred the title in 2018, and they have a clean title in hand. That's always a good thing to hear when you're buying a used car. Now, I know what you might be thinking. $7,500 is a lot of money for an old car. But hear me out. This isn't just any old car, it's a piece of American history, a symbol of the golden age of automobiles. And with the rebuilt engine and new tires, it's ready to hit the road and turn heads wherever it goes. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done by a trusted mechanic before making a decision. But if everything checks out, this 1970 Cadillac DeVille could be the car of your dreams. 5. All right, folks, get ready to step back in time because we've got a real classic on our hands today. Straight from the annals of Craigslist, we've discovered a 1957 Buick Special that's just begging for a new owner. And the best part, it can be yours for the low, low price of just $6,900. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A car that's over 60 years old for under $7,000? There must be a catch. But let me tell you, this Buick is the real deal. According to the seller, it's in good condition overall, and it's clear that a lot of love and hard work has gone into this project. Let's start with the exterior. The car has been painted a sleek black, and the rear door handles have been shaved off for a clean custom look. The glass all around is tinted and in good condition, adding to the car's overall style. Under the hood, you'll find a 364 cubic inch nailhead engine that's just waiting to roar to life. The transmission is a Dynaflow automatic that's been rebuilt by none other than Barry Newton of Taylor Motive, so you know it's in good hands. The heads have also been rebuilt with all new valves, springs, and lifters, courtesy of Magnum Engine. And if that wasn't enough, the seller even includes a full engine gasket set for a recommended block rebuild. But the upgrades don't stop there. The starter, generator, water pump, and brakes have all been rebuilt, and the drums have been turned. The car also has new wheel cylinders and a rebuilt master cylinder, ensuring that it stops as well as it goes. Inside, the Buick has been given a modern touch with 2007 Mustang black satin power bucket seats. The interior trim has been powder-coated, and there's new carpet throughout. And for all you music lovers out there, there's a new 4-speaker stereo system to keep you entertained on those long drives. Now, I do have to mention a couple of potential drawbacks. The seller notes that the registration papers are missing, which could make getting the car registered a bit of a hassle. Additionally, while the car is said to be a project near completion, it's unclear exactly what work still needs to be done. But overall, this 1957 Buick Special seems like a solid choice for anyone looking for a classic car with a ton of potential. With its rebuilt engine and transmission, updated interior, and sleek black paint job, it's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. And at just $6,900, it's a bargain compared to many other classic cars on the market. Of course, as with any project car, it's important to do your due diligence before making a purchase. But if you're willing to put in a little elbow grease and TLC, this Buick could be the car of your dreams. 6. We've got a real treat for you. A 1964 Ford Thunderbird that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic beauty is priced at $9,500, and it's got a lot of history and charm to offer. First off, let's talk about the car's background. According to the seller, they purchased this T-Bird from the original owner way back in 2004. That's right. This car has had just 2 owners in its nearly 60-year lifespan. It's always great to see a classic car that's been well loved and cared for over the years. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. The seller notes that the car runs nice and smooth, which is always a good sign. They've also made some recent upgrades to ensure that this T-Bird is in top shape. In 2023, they installed new brake drums, pads, master cylinder, booster, and brake lines, as well as a new power steering pump. The electric window motors and switches have also been replaced this year, so you can enjoy the breeze without any hassle. The exterior of the car is said to be in good condition with no dents and very nice chrome. The seller even went the extra mile and replated the door handles and turning indicators. The weather stripping in the trunk and doors has been replaced, as well as the rubber welt on the skirts. The glass is also said to be in pretty good condition. Moving on to the interior, the seller does note that it needs some work. The headliner and carpet could use some attention, but the gauges are said to work fine. This is pretty common for a car of this age, and it's definitely something to keep in mind if you're considering making an offer. One thing to note is that the odometer is broken, so the actual mileage of the car is unknown. The listing states that it has 50,000 miles on it, but it's unclear if that's the actual mileage or just where the odometer stopped working. Overall, this 1964 Ford Thunderbird seems like a solid choice for anyone in the market for a classic car with a bit of history. It's got a clean title and has been well maintained over the years, with some recent upgrades to boot. The asking price of $9,500 might seem a bit steep at first glance, but when you consider the car's age, condition, and potential, it starts to look like a pretty fair deal. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done by a trusted mechanic before making an offer. But if everything checks out, this T-Bird could be a real head-turner at your next car show or cruise night. 7. We've got a real gem for you. A 1975 Chevrolet Monte Carlo that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. This beauty is being sold by a senior owner who's finally ready to part ways with their beloved ride, and it can be yours for just $15,000. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Monte Carlo. According to the seller, it's in excellent shape, and the pictures definitely seem to back that up. The white paint job looks clean and shiny, and the seller notes that the car is completely rust-free. That's a big deal for a classic car like this, as rust can be a real problem for older vehicles. Under the hood, you'll find a 350 cubic inch engine that's said to run like a top. The car also has a 350 turbo Hydra-matic automatic transmission, which should provide smooth and reliable shifting. And with power steering and power front disc brakes, this Monte Carlo should be a breeze to drive. Moving on to the interior, the seller mentions that the original burgundy upholstery is currently covered by red seat covers. While some purists might prefer to see the original interior, the seat covers are likely there to protect the original upholstery and keep it in good shape. The car also has front bucket seats, which is a nice sporty touch. One thing to note is that the odometer shows 70,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. Of course, it's always a good idea to verify the mileage and get a thorough inspection done by a trusted mechanic before making a purchase. Overall, this 1975 Chevrolet Monte Carlo seems like a fantastic opportunity for anyone in the market for a classic American muscle car. With its rust-free body, strong running engine, and clean interior, it's clear that this car has been well cared for over the years. And while the asking price of $15,000 might seem a bit steep at first glance, it's actually pretty reasonable when you consider the car's excellent condition and desirable features. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence before making an offer. But if everything checks out, this Monte Carlo could be the car of your dreams. The seller notes that they are not interested in any trades, so if you've got the cash and you're ready to make a move, this could be your chance to own a piece of American automotive history. 8. We've got an interesting find on Craigslist. A 1964 Mercury Comet that's looking for a new home. The seller is asking $6,000 cash for this classic ride, and while it's got some issues, it could be a great project car for the right person. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Comet. The seller rates it as fair, which is a pretty honest assessment. The car has some small cosmetic details that need attention, but overall, it seems to be in decent shape for its age. The blue paint job looks like it could use a refresh, but it's not terrible by any means. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine that's said to run for a while before turning off. The seller mentions that there are some problems with the carburetor, which could be causing the engine to stall out. This is definitely something that will need to be addressed if you want to drive the car regularly. On the plus side, the seller has done some recent maintenance on the Comet, including installing new shocks, changing the oil, replacing the mechanical pump, and putting in a new battery. These are all good signs that the car has been cared for to some extent. One thing to note is that the transmission is listed as Other, which could mean a few different things. It's possible that it's a manual transmission, or it could be an automatic that's not working properly. Either way, it's something to keep in mind if you're considering making an offer. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, which is pretty high for a car of this age. However, it's not uncommon for classic cars to rack up the miles over the years, and as long as the car has been well maintained, it could still have plenty of life left in it. Overall, this 1964 Mercury Comet seems like a decent project car for someone who's willing to put in some work. It's got some issues that need to be addressed, but it's also got a clean title and some recent maintenance under its belt. The asking price of $6,000 cash might seem a bit high for a car in fair condition, but it's not outrageous for a classic like this. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence before making an offer. Get a thorough inspection done by a trusted mechanic, and be prepared to negotiate on the price if necessary. The seller notes that they're not interested in any trades or payments, so if you've got the cash and you're ready to take on a project, this could be your chance to own a piece of automotive history. 9. We've got a real treat for you. A 1950 Dodge Coronet that's been lovingly owned by the same person for over 3 decades. This classic beauty is up for grabs on Craigslist, and it could be yours for just $6,000. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Coronet. The seller rates it as good, and based on the description, it sounds like the car has a lot of potential. The bodywork and paint are said to be excellent, which is a huge plus for a car of this age. It's great to see that the seller has taken good care of the exterior over the years. Under the hood, you'll find a flathead 6-cylinder engine that's said to run smoke-free. That's always a good sign, as it suggests that the engine has been well maintained. However, the seller does note that the gyromatic transmission needs some work, so that's something to keep in mind if you're considering making an offer. Moving on to the interior, the seller mentions that the car needs full reupholster work. This is pretty common for a classic car like this, as the original upholstery can deteriorate over time. It's definitely something to factor into your budget if you're planning on restoring the car to its former glory. The seller also notes that some of the body trim needs replacement, which is another common issue with older cars. Thankfully, they have the original hubcaps, which is a nice touch. One thing to keep in mind is that this Coronet has 95,000 miles on the odometer. While that might seem like a lot, it's actually not too bad for a car that's over 70 years old. As long as the car has been well maintained over the years, it could still have plenty of life left in it. Overall, this 1950 Dodge Coronet seems like a great project car for someone who's passionate about classic automobiles. It's got a solid foundation with the excellent bodywork and paint. And the smoke-free engine is a big plus. While it does need some work in the transmission and interior departments, those are relatively minor issues that can be addressed over time. The asking price of $6,000 might seem a bit steep for a car that needs some work, but it's actually pretty reasonable when you consider the car's age and potential. Plus, the fact that it's been owned by the same person for over 30 years suggests that it's been well loved and cared for. If you're seriously interested in this Coronet, the seller encourages you to call and come see it in person in Valle Vista, Kingman, Arizona. As with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done by a trusted mechanic before making an offer. 10. We've got a real blast from the past on our hands, a 1984 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royal Brougham that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic ride is being offered for just $4,000 or best offer, and based on the seller's description, it sounds like it could be a great deal for the right buyer. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Delta 88. The seller rates it as good, and the pictures seem to back that up. The car looks to be in fantastic shape for its age, with a clean interior and a body that's mostly free of rust or major damage. The seller does note that there is some damage on the trunk and a dent in the right back door, but those seem to be relatively minor issues that could be easily addressed. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's said to drive great. The seller has recently replaced the head gasket, battery, and tires, all of which are good signs that the car has been well maintained. However, they do mention that the check engine light flickers occasionally, which could be a sensor issue that needs to be addressed. Moving on to the interior, the seller notes that it's very clean and in great condition. That's always a big plus for a classic car like this, as the interior can often be one of the first things to show its age. The seller also mentions that they are only the second owner of the car, which suggests that it's been well cared for over the years. Of course, no car is perfect, and this Delta 88 does have a few issues that potential buyers should be aware of. The windshield wiper motor is broken, which the seller says should be a cheap and easy fix. There's also a small coolant leak, which the seller attributes to a hose that needs to be replaced. While these issues are relatively minor, there's still something to keep in mind when considering making an offer. Overall, this 1984 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royal Brougham seems like a great opportunity for someone who's looking for a classic car with a lot of character. It's got a clean title, a strong engine, and a well-maintained interior, all of which are big pluses. While it does have a few minor issues that need to be addressed, those seem to be relatively easy fixes that shouldn't break the bank. The asking price of $4,000 or best offer seems pretty reasonable for a car in this condition, especially when you consider its age and the recent maintenance that's been done. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done by a trusted mechanic before making an offer. 11. We've got a real gem for you. A 1981 Ford Thunderbird that's been hidden away in dry storage for the past 2 decades. This classic beauty is up for grabs on Craigslist, and it could be yours for $14,500. First off, let's talk about the condition of this T-Bird. The seller rates it as excellent, and based on the pictures and description, it's easy to see why. The car looks to be in fantastic shape inside and out, with a clean body and a well-maintained interior. It's clear that the original owner took great care of this car before putting it into storage. Under the hood, you'll find a 302 V8 engine that's sure to provide plenty of power and performance. The seller also notes that the car is fully loaded with all the features you'd expect from a top-of-the-line model in 1981, including factory air conditioning, a cassette player, and power windows. It's great to see that all of these features are still intact and presumably working well. One thing to note is that the original owner installed step sides on the car, which may not be to everyone's taste. However, the seller mentions that these can be easily removed if desired, so it's not a major issue. The odometer shows 120,000 kilometers, which is roughly equivalent to 75,000 miles. While this may seem high for a classic car, it's actually relatively low for a vehicle that's over 40 years old. Plus, the fact that it's been in dry storage for the past 20 years suggests that it hasn't been racking up a lot of miles in recent years. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done by a trusted mechanic before making an offer. While the seller's description and photos are certainly promising, it's important to verify the car's condition in person and ensure that there are no hidden issues or problems. Overall, this 1981 Ford Thunderbird seems like a fantastic opportunity for someone who's looking for a classic car that's been well maintained and preserved. The asking price of $14,500 may seem a bit steep at first glance, but when you consider the car's excellent condition, low mileage, and desirable features, it starts to look like a pretty fair deal. 12. We've got a real treat for you. A 1975 Chevrolet Monte Carlo that's been given a ton of love and attention by its current owner. This classic beauty is up for grabs on Craigslist, and it could be yours for just $8,800. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Monte Carlo. The seller rates it as good, and based on the description, it's easy to see why. The car has been outfitted with a ton of new parts, including a 400 small block Chevy engine, a new exhaust system, carburetor, intake, plugs, wires, hoses, and more. It's clear that the owner has put a lot of time and effort into making sure this car is running at its best. The seller also mentions that the car has a new fuel tank with a gauge and lines, as well as a new fuel pump and lines. The front brakes have also been replaced and all the fluids have been changed. These are all great signs that the car has been well maintained and is ready to hit the road. Moving on to the exterior, the car is painted a sleek black color that looks great in the photos. The body appears to be in good shape with no major dents or rust visible. The seller doesn't mention anything about the interior, but based on the overall condition of the car, it's likely that it's in decent shape as well. One thing to note is that the odometer shows 116,000 miles, which is relatively high for a classic car. However, given all the recent maintenance and upgrades, it's clear that the owner has been taking good care of this Monte Carlo and isn't afraid to put in the work to keep it running strong. The seller mentions that they're open to partial trades, which could be a good option for someone who has another vehicle to offer up. However, they also note that they're only interested in serious inquiries and won't entertain any scammers or tire kickers. Overall, this 1975 Chevrolet Monte Carlo seems like a great opportunity for someone who's looking for a classic car that's been well maintained and upgraded. The asking price of $8,800 may seem a bit high at first glance, but when you consider all the recent work that's been done and the overall condition of the car, it starts to look like a pretty fair deal. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done by a trusted mechanic before making an offer. While the seller's description and photos are certainly promising, it's important to verify the car's condition in person and ensure that there are no hidden issues or problems. 13. We're diving into a classic beauty that's up for grabs on Craigslist, the 1966 Ford Falcon Ranchero. This vintage ride is a real head-turner, and it could be yours for just $8,800. Let's start with the basics. The Ranchero is rocking a powerful 289 4V engine paired with a 3-speed Hurst Indy manual transmission. That means you'll have plenty of power and control over this beast. The odometer shows just 46,000 miles, which is pretty low for a car of this age. Now the seller claims the condition is good, and based on the recent work done in 2023, it seems like they've put some serious love into this car. The full dual exhaust system is a nice touch, and the Bluetooth radio means you can jam out to your favorite tunes while cruising down the road. Plus, with the recent service, including an oil and filter change, transmission/linkage/shifter service, and new ignition system components, this Ranchero should be running like a top. The ad also mentions that the car is a dependable daily driver with no leaks, and it fires up on the first key turn. That's always a good sign for a classic car like this. Aesthetically, the green paint color is a classic choice for a vintage ride like this. The seller doesn't provide any photos, so it's hard to gauge the overall condition of the body and interior. However, if the mechanical work is as described, this Ranchero could be a solid choice for someone looking for a fun vintage daily driver or a cool project car. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to see the vehicle in person and have a trusted mechanic check it out before making a final decision. But based on the information provided, this 1966 Ford Falcon Ranchero seems like it could be a great buy for the right person. 14. We're checking out a 1964 Pontiac Lehman's that's up for sale on Craigslist. This classic coupe is being offered at $14,000, but the seller is open to negotiation. Now let's get real for a moment. The seller is upfront about the fact that this Lehman's is a restoration project. While it may look decent in the pictures, the seller emphasizes that it's not in pristine condition. The interior is completely worn out and believed to be original, so you'll definitely need to put some work into bringing it back to its former glory. Under the hood, you'll find a Pontiac 400 engine from 1975, which is not the original 326 that came with the car. However, the good news is that the engine runs and the car is drivable. If you live nearby, you might even be able to drive it home after purchase. The seller has also put on new tires, which is a plus. The odometer shows 79,000 miles, but here's the catch. It's broken. So the actual mileage remains a mystery. The car has a clean title and the transmission is automatic, which makes it a bit easier to work with. Overall, this 1964 Pontiac Lemons is a project car that requires a significant amount of restoration work. It's not for the faint of heart or those looking for a quick flip. However, if you're passionate about classic cars and have the time, skills, and resources to bring this beauty back to life, it could be a rewarding endeavor. The asking price of $14,000 might seem a bit steep for a car in this condition, but the seller is open to offers. If you're seriously interested, it's worth reaching out and trying to negotiate a better deal. In conclusion, this 1964 Pontiac Lehman's is a classic car with potential, but it's not a turnkey solution. It's a project that requires dedication and a significant investment of time and money. If you're up for the challenge and have a love for vintage Pontiacs, this Lemons might just be the perfect candidate for your next restoration adventure. 15. We've got a real treat for you. A 1969 Chrysler Newport convertible that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $12,500. This classic beauty is a true time capsule and it's got a story to tell. First off, can we talk about the fact that this Newport is being sold by its original owner? That's right. This car has been in the same loving hands since it first hit the road back in 1969. With only 69,068 miles on the odometer, it's clear that this convertible has been cherished and well-maintained throughout its life. Under the hood, you'll find a 383 cubic inch engine with a 2-barrel carburetor. This power plant is no slouch, and it's sure to provide plenty of get up and go when you hit the gas. The transmission is a smooth shifting automatic, making this Newport a breeze to drive. The seller mentions that this car has been exclusively driven locally and has been stored indoors in a heated garage every winter. That means no nasty rust or weather-related damage to worry about. The original hubcaps are included, along with some spare parts, which is always a nice bonus. The original owner's manual and some service records are also included in the sale. These documents are a goldmine for any collector, as they provide valuable insight into the car's history and maintenance. Now let's talk about the color. This Newport is rocking a bold yellow paint job that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. It's the perfect shade for a classic convertible like this, and it really makes the car pop. The seller describes the condition of this Newport as excellent, and based on the details provided, we're inclined to agree. The fact that it's been so well maintained and preserved by its original owner is a testament to the car's quality and longevity. Located on the North Shore, this 1969 Chrysler Newport convertible is a rare find indeed. With its clean title, low mileage, and incredible history, it's a car that any collector or enthusiast would be proud to own. At $12,500, this Newport is priced to sell. While it's not the cheapest classic car out there, it's certainly a fair price for a vehicle of this caliber. If you're in the market for a vintage convertible that's got a great story and even better bones, this Newport is definitely worth checking out. 16. We're diving into a classic 1963 Ford Thunderbird that's up for sale on Craigslist. This vintage beauty can be yours for just $7,000, and while it's not perfect, it's got a lot of potential for the right buyer. The seller describes the overall condition of this T-Bird as good, and based on the details provided, it seems like a fair assessment. The interior is said to be in very good shape with newer, redone seats and all the original chrome intact. There are a few small things that need fixing or replacing, but nothing major. The power windows and seats are all in working order, and the steering wheel even does that cool signature slide across the dash. Under the hood, you'll find the original 6.4 LV8 engine with 76,000 miles on the clock. While the seller mentions that the car runs okay, there's a catch. It's been overheating, and they suspect a blown head gasket. This is definitely something to keep in mind if you're considering taking on this project. The body of this Thunderbird is said to be free of any major rust or cosmetic issues, which is a big plus for a car of this age. There's a patch on the driver's side door that may need to be redone, but overall, the exterior seems to be in decent shape. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. The seller is upfront about the fact that this car is not a turnkey, drive-it-home-today kind of deal. They suggest that it's a great candidate for an engine swap, as they don't have the time or resources to fully restore it themselves. If you're a skilled mechanic or have experience with engine swaps, this could be a fun and rewarding project. The seller is asking $7,000 for this 1963 Thunderbird, which seems like a fair price considering the work that needs to be done. They're open to reasonable offers and are willing to answer any questions potential buyers may have. The title is in hand, and there are no fees owed, which is always a good sign. Overall, this 1963 Ford Thunderbird is a classic car with a lot of character and potential. It's not a perfect specimen, but with some elbow grease and a new engine, it could be a real head-turner. If you're up for a challenge and have a passion for vintage Fords, this T-Bird might just be the project you've been looking for. 17. We've got a real treat for you. A 1966 Buick Riviera that's fresh out of an 8-year slumber in a warehouse. This classic beauty is up for grabs on Craigslist for just $12,000 or best offer, and it's got a story to tell. First off, let's talk about the specs. This Riviera is a true Grand Sport GS model, which means it's packing some serious heat under the hood. We're talking about a 425 cubic inch nailhead V8 engine, which is known for its impressive torque and smooth power delivery. The transmission is an automatic, and the car is rear-wheel drive as you'd expect from a classic muscle car like this. Now, I know what you're thinking. A car that's been sitting for 8 years must be in rough shape, right? Well, not necessarily. The seller has done some impressive work to get this Riviera back up and running. They've rebuilt the 4-barrel carburetor, removed and cleaned up the radiator, replaced the fuel pump, and even pre-oiled the cylinders before firing it up. With new oil and a fresh filter, this car is ready to hit the road once again. The odometer shows just 88,900 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. And can we talk about the color? This Riviera is rocking a stunning red paint job that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. The 17-inch Cragar wheels are a nice touch too. They give the car a sporty, aggressive look that really sets it apart from the crowd. Now, the seller does describe the condition of this Riviera as good, but it's important to keep in mind that this is a barn find. It may not be in perfect show-ready condition, but that's part of the charm. This car has been sitting for a long time, and it's going to need some love and attention to really shine. But for the right buyer, that's all part of the fun. The seller mentions that they have 2 other Rivieras available for sale as well, along with some complete engines and transmissions. If you're a Buick enthusiast or just love classic American muscle, this could be a great opportunity to pick up a project car, or 3, and really dive into the world of restoration. At $12,000 or best offer, this 1966 Buick Riviera GS is priced fairly for a car with its pedigree and potential. It's not a perfect specimen, but it's a solid starting point for a restoration project or even a daily driver with some minor tweaks. 18. We've got a sweet ride from the golden era of American muscle, a 1975 Pontiac Firebird. This beauty is up for grabs on Craigslist for just $10,000. Let's dive into what makes this classic so special. First off, the seller mentions that this Firebird is rocking a powerful V8 engine and an automatic transmission. They say it runs and drives well, which is always a good sign for a car of this age. The tires are also newer, so you won't have to worry about replacing them anytime soon. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, rust. The seller is upfront about it, mentioning that there are a couple of small bubbles here and there. But hey, they also make it clear that there aren't any holes or rotting, which is a relief. It's important to remember that a car from the 70s is bound to have some imperfections, but it seems like this Firebird has been well maintained overall. The seller also mentions that the car comes with a clean title in hand, so you won't have to deal with any pesky paperwork issues. And for those of you who like to wheel and deal, sorry, but the seller is firm on their stance: no trades. All in all, this 1975 Pontiac Firebird seems like a solid choice for anyone looking to own a piece of American muscle car history. With its powerful V8 engine, newer tires, and relatively minimal rust issues, this car is ready to hit the open road and turn some heads. Just keep in mind that it's not going to be in perfect condition. But hey, that's part of the charm of owning a classic car. So, if you've got $10,000 burning a hole in your pocket and a love for vintage American muscle, this 1975 Pontiac Firebird might just be the ride of your dreams. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a true classic. 19. We've got a real treat for you, a 1967 Ford Fairlane that's just begging to be finished and taken out on the open road. This beauty is currently up for sale on Craigslist for just $9,100, and let me tell you, it's a steal. First off, let's talk about the condition of this classic. The seller mentions that it's super clean, which is always a good sign. They also note that it's been stored inside for the past 8 years, so you know it's been well protected from the elements. The seller does admit that there's a little bit of rust in the trunk, but hey, that's to be expected with a car that's over 50 years old. Under the hood, this Fairlane is packing a powerful 8-cylinder engine, which is sure to give you plenty of get up and go. It's also got a clean title, so you won't have to worry about any pesky paperwork issues. Now let's talk about the fun stuff, the potential of this car. The seller mentions that it runs and sounds great, which is a huge plus. They also note that the only thing left to do is a bit of work on the interior and paint. This means that you've got the opportunity to really make this car your own and put your personal touch on it. Imagine cruising down the street in this sleek black beauty, turning heads everywhere you go. With a little bit of elbow grease and some TLC, this 1967 Ford Fairlane could be the car of your dreams. The seller is asking $9,100 or best offer for this classic, which is a fair price considering the condition and potential of the car. They also mention that they're open to questions, so don't hesitate to reach out if you want to know more. In conclusion, if you're looking for a classic car project that's got tons of potential, this 1967 Ford Fairlane is definitely worth checking out. With its clean title, powerful engine, and minimal rust, it's a great candidate for restoration. And at just $9,100, it's a steal of a deal. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a piece of American automotive history. 20. We're taking a closer look at a stunning 1965 Chrysler 300 that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at $12,500, but trust me, it's worth every penny. Let's start with the heart of this beast. A 413 big block Vibe 8 engine that's sure to get your blood pumping. Paired with an automatic transmission, this car is a dream to drive. And get this, it's an all-original AC car, which means you can cruise in comfort even on the hottest of days. Now let's talk about the condition of this classic. The seller mentions that the car is in excellent shape, both inside and out. The interior is beautiful, and the exterior is sure to turn heads at every red light. And with less than 300 miles on the tires, you won't have to worry about replacing them anytime soon. But don't just take my word for it. The seller is confident that this car will turn heads wherever you go. Imagine cruising down the street in this vintage beauty, feeling the power of that big block V8 under the hood. It's the kind of experience that every car enthusiast dreams of. Now I know what you're thinking. What about the paperwork? Well, fear not, my friends. The seller has a clean title in hand, so you won't have to deal with any pesky legal issues. And here's the best part. The seller is open to offers. While they're asking $12,500 for this beauty, they're willing to negotiate. So if you're serious about owning a piece of American automotive history, now's your chance. In conclusion, this 1965 Chrysler 300 is a true gem. With its powerful engine, beautiful interior, and excellent condition, it's the kind of car that you'll be proud to show off. And with a clean title and a seller who's open to offers, it's a deal that's too good to pass up. So what are you waiting for? Get in touch with the seller and make this classic yours today.